street, you see all those signs, you turn on the TV, all of those are sophisticated attempts to control how we think. So we can buy the product, buy into the ideas, the lifestyles that they're selling. So what about this other one? What is this one? Finite facts versus social agreement. So help me out. Is this a finite fact that this is called that this is Bowie State University, or is this a social agreement? Excuse me again?
Social agreement.
It's a finite fact?
Social agreement.
Social agreement? Let me see some hands. How many hands say it's a finite fact? Okay. And how many say it's a social agreement? Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. So it's a finite fact. So let me see if I understand this. So it has always been Bowie State University, and another 100 years from now it will still be Bowie State University? Oh. So it's just, for right now, we have an agreement that is called Bowie State University. Oh. Okay. But what about your name? Finite fact or social agreement? Finite fact? So it's on a legal document. Okay. So it's never going to change. So it's never going to change. So again, one view says there are such things as finite facts. And if it's written on a piece of legal paper, that means it is what it is until you get a lawyer or go to the Supreme Court or whatever, and they see it another way. And that falls more into the social agreements. Social agreements. We have an agreement that some of us have advanced degrees or certifications. Facts or social agreements. And this is the agreement of the society. How many social workers are there? Professional counselors? Peer counselors? So, like I said, I'm a little older than some of y'all, but
our president of APSA, African Psychology Student Association. But before I do so, just wanted to share this quick story. So as a master's student at Johns Hopkins, and I was going through my master's, for our comp exam, we had to present a theoretical orientation to the faculty within the department. And so at the time, this was, I won't tell you what it was, but at the time I presented on N2 psychotherapy. And of course, all of my other colleagues were doing reality therapies, CBT, and all those theories. Dr. Gregory would be proud to know that I did such a good job that they invited me back to teach multicultural the next semester. So, yes. And so, with that, we developed in our department two courses, theories and applications in African-centered counseling, where we cover N2. And we also have an advanced version of that course. So Bowie is, if you haven't noticed the transitions within the department, we are moving in the direction of serving our communities, in particular our African descent communities. And I'm gonna stop talking here and give it over to Giovanni Jones, who's the president of APSA.
Good evening, everyone. My name is is Giovanna Jones, and I serve as the current president of APSA. I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening for the Indigenous Psychotherapy and Afrocentric and Ayurvedic approach to healing. We are pleased to be joined by Dr. Henry Gregory, who will be leading our discussion this evening. I would like to take a moment to thank the APSA board, the advisors, and TNAT Holistic Wellness Center for bringing this event together. At this moment, I would like to invite Dr. Dennis Winkler, the founder of TNAT Holistic Wellness Center, to share a few words about TNAT and what they offer. Following, we'll be introducing our guest speaker, Dr. Henry Gregory, by our Vice President, Elijah Prince. So without further ado,
well, I guess they're not too mad at me, my class. All right, we almost there, right? All right, greetings everyone. Dr. Dennis Asar Winkler. This is a pleasure of mine. I am the founder of TNAT Holistic Wellness Center, and I am also an adjunct professor here. I've been so excited to come to Bowie because what Dr. Williams was speaking about, I actually spoke about on my first day of class here, that I see how Bowie has positioned itself to serve communities of African descent and by extension the world. So I am the founder of TNAT Holistic Wellness Center again, but I want to share a little story that's a little different than Dr. Williams really quickly. In my master's program at Loyola, we had something called a theory of mind that we had to complete. And I was pulling all these Afrocentric modalities and principles. I'm in Amos Wilson's book, just everybody, Dr. Francis Cresswell's, and just trying to couple and pull all these things together. And I was doing good. And then my internship supervisor told me, there is a workshop going on at Bowie State University. And it was something called Indigenous Psychotherapy. And so I don't think Dr. Williams knows this, but I came here as he was presenting. This is about 2000, something back in early mid-2000s and teens or what have you. Nonetheless, I came, Dr. Williams presented on Indigenous Psychotherapy, and I didn't even realize I knew Dr. Gregory. Because I've known Dr. Gregory for years, but he's such a humble guy that I didn't even realize, I didn't make the connection. But nonetheless, finding out about Into helped me a lot of brain power, helped me save a lot of brain power, because what I realized is that what we've been doing at TNAT Holistic Wellness Center, before I even became a clinician, was therapeutic. And what I appreciated about Into is that it really affirmed what we were doing. And I've built a relationship with Dr. Gregory, and he's even brought that to more light, and he's given me affirmation about that. So at TNAT, we do a lot of things. And we started from a grassroots type of ministry type of thing, and we've always dealt with the mind, the body, the spirit. So we do all types of things. I can never tell you all the things we do, but we do things, let me just go for by floor. The lower level, my father, and it's a very family space and community space. My father does Tai Chi, karate, martial arts, meditation, all types of things down there, kickboxing even. And that is important for us, our mental health, because we can't disconnect our mental health from our physical health, or nor our physical health from our mental health. Then you go into the main level, where we offer anything from books to herbs to incense to just all types of accoutrements, right? We also have a restaurant there. We also have African artwork, African American artwork. When we say African, many times we're talking about the African diaspora and continental Africans. So everything is important to healing, even aesthetics. Then on the top level, of course, we do individual, family, community type of counseling. We do group counseling for men and women. We do, and one of the greatest things I want to say we do at TNAT on all levels is that we serve the community. And I mean that it's not in the traditional, I'm not even calling it traditional, in the Eurocentric way. I'm saying that this ain't always billable. What I'm saying is that we deal with things on a psychosocial political, from our psychosocial political framework. And clinicians, as my students might know, I'm always speaking about this working in the community, always like how we have to deal and engage with the political arena and all these type of things. But nonetheless, TNAT, we do it all. And again, we have diaspora and restaurant there. You might want to come check it out. But anyway, thank y'all for your time.
Dr. Gregory is a mental health professional with over 45 years of experience. He holds a doctoral degree in clinical psychology and a master's degree in community mental health and psychology. He has expertise and extensive experience as a clinician, educator, trainer, consultant, and researcher in a number of service areas, including substance abuse, HIV/AIDS, criminal justice, juvenile justice, child welfare, school-based mental health, and behavioral health. Dr. Gregory recently retired from being an assistant professor at the University of Maryland School of Nursing. He has also served as the associate director for the University of Baltimore County's Center for Community Collaboration and as the cultural competence coordinator for MD Cares, a federally funded system of care for youth and families experiencing emotional and behavioral challenges. Dr. Gregory provides consultation and training to public and private agencies and direct services to individuals and families through his own organization, the Rafiki Consortium. Through Rafiki, he focuses on assisting service providers, policymakers, family members, and other stakeholders in understanding and implementing skills, attitudes, and treatment/service models that are culturally competent and grounded in a competency orientation toward promoting change. Dr. Gregory is passionately believes that we create our own destiny by how we think about ourselves and our circumstance. To this end, he believes that a focus on strengths, competencies, and resilience will revolutionize the field of mental health. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Gregory.
Hello, folks. First of all, let me just add one thing to Dr. Winkler's sharing. TNAT stands for Temple of New African Thought. Okay, for those of you who may not know.
Okay.
So we're going to go on a little journey, and what I'd like to do is make this interactive as much as possible. So if you have any questions or any comments you want to add at any point, just raise your hand and we'll get it in. We'll have a period at the end when it's, open for questions, but we can do some in the process. We can do this together. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, you're not going to leave me by myself, right? Okay, all right, well, just check. So, some of what we're going to do, we're going to identify characteristics of this Western Eurocentric linear mindset and the Eastern Afrocentric relational worldviews. Look at them, the similarities, the differences, and the background of how they developed. We're also going to get into explore an Afrocentric model of psychotherapy and how that developed and what are some of the implications, as well as the Ayurvedic principles of healthy living that have been incorporated in another model that we've developed. So, one of the things that's happening, we're in a time of major change in this planet. And many people have been talking about it for a long time. It's like societies have come and gone in the history of this world many times, whether you're talking about Rome and Greece, or whether you're talking about Egypt and Mesopotamia, they've come and gone. And many people believe that this Western one that's led by the United States has kind of played out too. And maybe even some of the recent politics is just an example, because in many ways, I said the politics are not about taking care of the people. They're about taking care of the power structure. But that's another talk for another day. So, as Dr. Williams said a little earlier, there are many models of psychotherapy, and most of them have some utility with certain populations. I remember getting my first master's degree, and one of my instructors gave me a job working in the community, I think for Catholic Charities, part-time. I was working at a Catholic parish, and I was seeing mostly middle-class, white, two-parent families. And I was a super therapist. You know, I'd come in and do what the book said, and, you know, take them through some process and give them some home assignments, and they'd go do the home assignments and come back, and they thought I was wonderful and everything was going really nice. Then I started working downtown, you know, in the city where I'm from. And it was a little bit different. Because when you, first of all, we were doing a lot of things by visiting people in their homes as opposed to them coming into the office or someplace else. And I remember the lady, one of the first things one lady asked me, she didn't ask me what was my degree or what agency that I was from or anything else. She asked me what religion was I. Another situation came up when you're dealing with clients in mandated situations where they have to come because they're mandated by the courts. That's a whole different reality than if somebody's coming because they see some need, they want to come, and they believe in what you're doing. So when I found out, when I was dealing with mandated clients and clients who had different worldviews, that I had to expand my knowledge base and my behavior in order to meet people where they are. We hear that so often, meet people where they are, but it's more than a notion. It's more than that. And we're going to look at a little bit of what some of that may take. Colonialism, an act of political and economic domination involving the control of a country and its people by settlers from a foreign power. The goal of colonizing countries is to profit by exploiting the human and economic resources of the countries they colonize. Colonialism is the establishment and maintenance of one group of people as superior to other people and areas, often for imperialistic control and exploitation. So why am I starting with that? Because in many ways, this Western view of health, this Western view of prosperity, this Western view of well-being is based on colonialism. But let me unpack a couple more of these, and we'll come back to this to make this a little bit clearer. Now, I forgot exactly where I got this from. I'm a little older than some of y'all. My memory is not where it used to be. But I think it was kind of significant. It said the single biggest thing I learned was from an indigenous elder of Cherokee descent, Stan Rustford, who reminded me of the difference between a Western settler mindset of, I have rights, and an indigenous mindset of, I have obligations. Instead of thinking that I am born with rights, I choose to think that I am born with obligations to serve past, present, and future generations and the planet herself. In many ways, that gets to the essence of the difference between these models. You know, when we talk about colonialism, you know, and one of the manifestations of colonialism was, you know, that rugged individualism that was supposedly defined so much of what was happening in America in the early days. rugged individualism. But what we see here is another way of looking at life, is that each one of us, rather than have the obligation to fight for our rights, we have the obligation to serve the larger community. Because at some level, we are all interconnected. We are all part of the same system, the same body, the same energy. Sometimes I think about beings from other parts of the universe looking at us like we might look at ants. You see black ants and red ants and brown ants and, like that. And they're just ants, But from a lot of this colonial worldview, we see some of the ants as important, some as less important, and so much of the interaction is about the hustle. It's about the hustle, what I can get, And we see so many examples of that. I mean, you can look at the Congo now. It's called the Belgian Congo. One of the richest places with resources on the planet. Matter of fact, most of us in our phones have elements that can only be found in a few places in the world, and most of it is in the Congo. I forget the name of it. Coltrane. Yes. But do the Congolese people benefit from that? No. No. So there's a worldview, there's a mindset that dominates what we do, much of what we're exposed to, and we want to examine a little bit about those mindsets. And we're going to call one linear Western Eurocentric, and the other is relational Eastern or Afrocentric. One of the main differences is the linear one is focused on materialism. It's focused on materialism. What you can tangibly hold, see, experience in your level of reality, including technology. And part of the myth of colonialism was because certain societies and countries were more advanced than other ones technologically, that they were better and that they were more deserving of power and influence because they were better at technology. But I tell you, you can travel now. There's still some places left on Earth you can go to and visit, and they're quiet, they're peaceful, serene, and people are living indigenous lifestyles and really happy. One of the things you see in this material world a lot of times, you'll see some of the richest people in the world on TV or on social media and stuff. But if you look closely at them and listen to them, do they sound like they're content? Do they look like they're happy or fulfilled? Because, the way desire works, the more you get, the more you want. You never get enough to satisfy you as long as you're trying to satisfy yourself externally instead of internally. So one of the main values from the Western standpoint is materialism. One of the main values from a Afrocentric relational view is relationships. Relationships. Back to that piece we just said, whether it's not so much about individual rights, it's about my responsibility to be a responsible, productive part of the whole. So instead of being individualized, it's about the group. It's about the group and it's about the community. Make sense? Another piece is left brain versus right brain. So left brain is a part of the brain where logic, where we label stuff, where we count and measure things. You know? Y'all been to elementary school, right? Right? You know, I mean, you can't get through elementary school without counting, measuring, and learning how to label stuff and that kind of thing. That's the left brain. The right brain is where we start to look at how things relate to one another. Where we begin to look at how things feed each other, consequences of actions, how things are associated. So, again, it's how things fit together, not how things act in isolation. The left brain, you can be very logical. And as a therapist, I hear it a lot of times, excuse my language, but a lot of times from us brothers, about being logical. I'm illogical, listen. If you make decisions all the time just being logical, you're going to leave out something. What do you leave out? Intuition. You've already watched the slide, right?
What's my intuition?
To really make good decision making, we have to use the logical part of the brain. We have to use our hearts, our emotions, because emotions are messengers. They help us to understand context, especially human context. And the gut, the intuition, that which comes without any obvious tangible source. But when we use all three of those things together, we make better, more holistic decisions that are generally more health promoting. But if I'm only doing left brain, so often when I hear people talk about that, what they're not saying is they got attitude. I'm being logical, but you pissed too, and that's playing into this. And part of being whole, being healthy, being in harmony with others in the environment is learning to be emotionally competent. Emotionally competent. Learning how to recognize your emotions, make peace with them, and allow them to feed you in a way that helps you to make better decisions. Another aspect is mastery of control versus harmony. From a Western standpoint, much of the emphasis is on mastering and controlling stuff. The environment, other people, time, resources. It's about being in charge. Being in charge. From a relational standpoint, it's about being in harmony. What's the difference between being in charge, being in control, and being in harmony? I'll say being in control stresses you out. Because the truth of the matter is you can't really control anything, not even yourself. The most you can hope to be is being in charge. And the difference between being in charge and being in control, when you're in charge, you're doing the best you can, but you're not attached to the results. Because the results are often beyond your control and even your effort, like that. Being in harmony, I'm trying to move with, live with, give and take, like that. It's an understanding that everything fits together. There's no such thing as accidents or coincidences. Everything fits together in the universe. The universe is very organized. we're not always organized. But there's no mistakes. Everything is organized. When we're in harmony, we are moving with forces that we don't even understand a lot of time. One of the things that's happened in the last few years, the physicists have started to say what the indigenous healers have been saying all over the planet. Everything is connected. Anything we do here affects everything else on the planet. Anything you think, anything you eat, anything you do affects everything else on the planet. Because everything is interconnected. So it all counts. It all counts. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. Outcomes versus process. So, as a professional, mental health professional, we're taught to look for outcomes all the time. But not just us, everybody else. In every job, what counts, how productive you, how much money you make, and how much this you're doing, and like that all the time. It's about outcomes. Matter of fact, what's the saying? The end justifies the means. However I get the outcome, it don't even matter sometimes because, the outcome is more important than anything else. And if I can just sidebar a piece, when I talk about those civilizations falling, it's generally thought that civilizations fall because of corruption from within. The lowering of the morals, the ethics, the interactions between the people, and the energy falls, the vibration falls, and the society falls. So when we just focus on outcomes, what we leave out sometimes is the process. What is process? Process says it matters what you think, how you treat people, what you do to take care of yourself. Now, it may not always produce what you wanted to do right there, but it matters. It matters. The process is the how. The outcome refers to the what. And many, they could say, so much of this Western world we live in, when you talk about jobs and everything, it's about outcome. And even when we look at ourselves, how we value ourselves is about how much we can produce, as opposed to how am I. It's about the difference between doing and being. Outcome says I have value if I can be productive in this way, and I can do this and please this one and do that. Process says I am valuable, I am worthy because I am. I am that I am. So when I say these things, the average one of us sees 4,000 to 10,000 commercials a day. 4,000 to 10,000 sophisticated attempts to influence how we think about ourselves, how we spend our money, about just how we move in the world. When you open your phone, and you start to scroll down, you see all those commercials come up. You drive down the street, you see all those signs, you turn on the TV. All of those are sophisticated attempts to control how we think. So we can buy the product, buy into the ideas, the lifestyles that they're selling. So what about this other one? What is this one? Finite facts versus social agreement. So help me out. Is this a finite fact that this is called that this is Bowie State University, or is this a social agreement? Excuse me again?
Social
It's a finite fact?
Social agreement.
Social agreement? Let me see some hands. How many hands say it's a finite fact? Okay. And how many say it's a social agreement? Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. So it's a finite fact. So let me see if I understand this. So it has always been Bowie State University, and another 100 years from now it will still be Bowie State University? Oh. So it's just, for right now, we have an agreement that is called Bowie State University. Oh, okay. But what about your name? Finite fact or social agreement? Finite fact? So it's on a legal document. Okay, so it's never going to change. So it's never going to change. So again, one view says there are such things as finite facts. And if it's written on a piece of legal paper, that means it is what it is until you get a lawyer or go to the Supreme Court or whatever, and they see it another way. And that falls more into the social agreements. Social agreements. We have an agreement that some of us have advanced degrees or certifications. Facts or social agreements. And this is the agreement of the society. How many social workers are there? Professional counselors? Peer counselors? So, like I said, I'm a little older than some of y'all, but I remember when, professional counselors were trying to become licensed. Even before then, it was psychiatrists, and then after that it was psychologists, and then the social worker sat by the door. Whoever was the last one to get in sat by the door to try to make the club exclusive. But over time, the social agreement changed, and counselors were allowed to be certified, and then peers. And I tell you who's next. What do they call it? Coaches. Coaches are now outside the system. But my prediction is it won't be too long before coaches will have to be certified too. But the good news is there's always somebody outside the system too. But anyhow, that's another question. But the point is, social agreements, a lot of things we see as facts, as being always present, are just social agreements. Your name, your job, the name of the city, the name of this country, the political system, how it's run. Oh, this stuff. This little green piece of paper with the dead president on it. We have a social agreement that one's worth $1, right? And according to the newspaper, stock markets, it changes every day what it's actually worth. So all I'm saying is there's more than one way to look at things. There's more than one way to look at things. From a larger standpoint, institutionally, said this linear way of looking at things developed what's called modernism, which was a reaction to spiritualism and what? A lot of the superstition in the Middle Ages. So what came up as a result of that is the scientific method. Objectivity, cause and effect, universal truths. In order for something to be real, I have to be able to demonstrate it at will, show it to the next person, and do it when I want to do it, in order for it to be accepted as being real. But from an Afrocentric or relational point of view, it's a little different. What we call postmodernism. Postmodernism says it doesn't have to be an objective fact for it to be real. Knowing things subjectively are important also. Some of us believe there is a universal force. Some call life, some call God, some call nature, whatever. You may have had an experience, a revelation that validated that for you. But that don't mean you can show me at will, that you can document it empirically. But because you can't, should you deny it? Should you deny your experience? So, from a postmodernist point of view, saying your subjective understanding is an important way of knowing things. What's the saying? Above all, to thine own self be true. So I don't have to be able to show it to you or prove it empirically for me to accept that this is valid and has some real value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then when we get to the linear model, a lot of it's about cause and effect. Cause and effect. So what's the cause of all this ADHD that we see in the society these days? So I say, oh, it's genetic. Oh, it's about pollution, poor diet. From a relational standpoint, we say it's maybe about all of that. It may include parenting, it may include diet. Anybody remember the Feingold diet? When all this ADHD first started to really get high, instead of talking about take the sugar out of the diet, take the food colorings out of the diet and such like that. And once you can do some of that, kids started to settle a little bit more. So what we were saying that there are systemic causes. There's not one cause. Remember, everything is related. So from a relational standpoint of view, there are many causes. It's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. And instead of universal truths that apply all the time to everybody in any situation, everything is relative. Everything. What you can have a set of twins, triplets in your house. What works for one may not work for another. You know, and different personalities, they have different energies, and you know, they're different people. So it's just, there's no one size that fits all. But according to the linear model, there is one size that fits all. We talked about outcomes and process, and the other one is dichotomous versus diametrical thinking. You know what dichotomous thinking is? Either or thinking. Either you black, white, male, female, rich, poor, in, out, smart, dumb, one or the other. But when it comes down to it, the scientists say there's really no differences between the races. We all exist on a continuum. And some of us are darker and some of us are lighter and whatever. But it's all one species. And what may be right for one person at one time may not be right for that same person tomorrow. Or may not be right for the person sitting beside them. So it's not a finite thing about what's right and wrong. Everything exists on a continuum. You know, what's that assessment called? Myers-Briggs? You know, whether you're introvert or extrovert, and according to that, we all have a little bit of everything in it. So you might be here on the scale and maybe more extrovert, or you might be here on the scale and be more introvert, but you have some of both in you. So that's what we're saying from a diurnal standpoint, that everything exists in a continuum. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, because earlier you were talking about some people believe in like a universal force or God, and I was just curious, like something you said earlier, where when you went to downtown, they had asked you your religion, and I was curious like how you responded to that and how they responded to your response around the religion question.
Truthfully, I don't remember. But that was 50 years ago. But she did let me in. We got to know each other and did some work with her and things like that. But I had to acknowledge those are things that were important to her. I might have said, I grew up as a Baptist and whatever, and joined her around that before we got into the other issues. So these two cradles, there was a brother, a Senegalese brother by the name of Diop. He was an anthropologist and historian, and he had what he called the two cradle theory. The two cradles. And what he said was simply that both of those worldviews developed naturally. He said the southern cradle, down by the equator, look, it's hot down by the equator. You don't have to spend a lot of time going after food. Matter of fact, you can get up in the morning and go fishing or go hunting, and by noon, you just chilling out and just hanging out with the rest of the community. There's plenty enough food. You don't need a lot of shelter because it's hot. You don't even need a lot of clothes because, again, it's hot down by the equator. So what becomes the focus is community, relationships, interactions with one another. Now, according to Dr. Diop, up the street in Europe it's a little bit different. In the Caucasus Mountains it's a little different because what happened? It gets cold up there certain times of year. So if you don't learn how to count and measure, how to store some food, how to build a sturdy structure to live in, if you don't learn how to do those things, we don't hear nothing about you because you die quickly. What he implies is that both of these worldviews develop naturally, and both of them have utility. And we all have some combination of those in our lives. The problem comes when one gets sold as this is the way, and if you're not doing that, something's wrong with you. If you're not doing that, then you're inferior, you're inadequate, you're unworthy in some ways. One way is right, this way is right, and this way is wrong. That's when it becomes a problem. That's when it becomes a problem. Back to your question, young man. So when we start talking about therapy models, one of the first things we have to deal with when we're looking at the difference between Western models and Eastern models is the issue of spirituality. Is the issue of spirituality. Spirituality is about the connectedness to a universal consciousness, the concept of beings as force or energy, and the world as an energy field, being in tune with the vibrations of the world seen and unseen. Again, the physicists say that everything is energy. Nothing is created or destroyed, it just changes form. So all of us are here in a physical form today, but we don't know about tomorrow. We all have loved ones who have moved on to other places. That don't mean that they don't exist. That means they don't exist in this three-dimensional reality any longer. One of the concepts that comes out of the spirituality, not my will, but thy will. Purpose, not what I want, but what the Spirit, purpose is not what I want, but what the Spirit want for me. So, has anybody ever gotten in trouble for just following their desires and their wants? Anybody but me? We all have. Part of maturing, part of growing is when we learn to submit to a higher reality. When we learn to submit to our connection to a universal consciousness and say, I don't do that anymore. Because again, it's not only how it affects me, but how it affects the community, the larger reality. We elevate or lower our energy by how we live. You can think about that in terms of brain waves. You know, the 5 basic brain waves, and most of us stay in the gamma and beta. You know, gamma and beta, that's the everyday ones we stay in. When we really get chilled out and relaxed, we go to alpha. You know? That's when we're in the zone, as we say. But the deeper ones are the delta and the thetas. And that means we really have to be still and know. We really have to be able to calm our energies and get in touch with the deeper reality. How might you do that? What are some of the ways you can do that? Meditation. Sleep. Real sleep. Some of us stay on the surface with the sleep. You know. What else? Breathing exercises. What else?
Fasting.
Prayer.
Fasting.
Say again.
Fasting.
Fasting. Mm-hmm. Dancing, playing music. Of course, playing music, it depends on what the music is. It's the rhythms and the music and what it's saying. There's some old experiments to say they put plants by a speaker. Excuse my language, but when they were playing the hard rock to with the beats off like they can be, the plants would move away from the speakers. But when they would play classical music, where the rhythms are consistent, whatever, the plants would move over to it. And some of y'all know who've been around for a little bit, how much the music has changed even in the last 50 years. It used to be much more nurturing consistently, but in many ways, some of it's become much more commercial. It stimulates. So many of us are overstimulated and under-nurtured. You know, and that sets us up to be exploited more easily. You know, we say, be still and know. That's when we can go deeper inside, get to deeper levels of our own spirit, brain waves, and be more effective in being intentional about our lives, as opposed to dancing to the tunes of these commercials and whatever. Virtues that elevate one's energy, vibrations such as integrity, truth, courage, humility. To me, that's about being true to oneself. About being true to oneself. Truth is not just what you speak, it's how you live. Are you living consistent with your highest values? The things that are important to you, that make the most sense to you? Or are you people pleasing? Or are you just doing stuff to keep the weight off you or to get what you want? Because it makes a difference. It makes a difference. When I think about some of the folks who've done the most for our community, Malcolm, King, Mandela, and others, people who lived their truth, no matter what was the cost, they lived their truth and elevated all of our vibrations. Elevated all the vibrations in the community. So we all have that choice. We do better when we're being true to ourselves. And what's the right? Vices that lower our energy, such as dishonesty, disloyalty, infidelity, depravity. I won't talk about those. Y'all know about those, right? Okay. Oh, sorry. So, there are three main existential questions that are always in the back of our minds, our subconscious mind. Now understand, when I say subconscious mind, 10 years ago, the research says that the human mind, the subconscious part was 85% of the mind. The subconscious part was up 85%. The more recent research says what? The subconscious mind is 95% of the mind. So some kind of way, even as recently as the last 10 or 12 years, as a society, we have become less conscious. What's that about? Say what? So what I'm saying is, these questions are always there. Who am I really? I know some call me Doc, some call me Hank, some call me MF. You know, 3 o'clock in the morning, when I can't sleep, when I'm by myself, who am I really? That's always the question that's there. And then again, what's real? Again, we're talking about this little piece of paper in my pocket. You know, is that real? Is my service to the community real? Is my effort to take care of my family, is that real? You know? Or my effort to have a big car and a big house? You know, what's real? What's really feeds me, gratifies me, helps me to actualize my potential and supports my sense of worthiness? And the last one, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? We're going to look at that a little bit more. But the assumption is that everybody is born with a purpose, has something to do for and with the larger community, something to contribute. Maybe it's not about being president or university president or one of these companies stuff. Maybe you're the person that brings some joy and laughter to the party. Maybe you're the one that has some artistic gifts that you bring, or whatever. But everybody brings something to the party. There's no such thing as somebody who doesn't have something to give. And that becomes a critical issue when we're talking about mental health. Because we all are doing better when we're consistent with our purpose. So some of the spiritual things, sense of direction, helps us know which way to go. Meaning. We're not going to talk a lot about it, but if you're talking about whenever tragedy happens or adversity or something happens to knock us down, part of the healing is to figure out what's the meaning, what's the lesson, what is life trying to teach me about myself, about life, what's the meaning behind this? So spirituality is about looking behind the curtain and getting some understanding of what things mean. Feeling the connectedness of oneself with others, with God or a higher power. One of the times when we become most fragile is when we start feeling disconnected. When we start feeling totally alone, nobody gets me, nobody understands me, nobody values me. That's a real difficult place to work from. And it's a foundation for depression. You know what depression is, right? You know, depression is living in the past, anxiety is living in the future. So to really be grounded in happiness is about learning how to be in the present moment. How to be in the present moment. And that's about feeling connected to what's around you, what's happening to you, having some value in it. All of us start off with that question about our worthiness and our value. It's always back there. And in this society, so many things come up that really question that all the time. So if you're not doing something intentional to feed your sense of worth and value, whether it's prayer or spiritual study or creativity or something that helps you to see some value in yourself, it's very easy to slip back in that place where unconsciously you're questioning your own value. And you know how some of us do it. When we question our value, how we do it? Yeah, I'm bad. I'm overcompensating. I got a big mouth, or I can't stop talking. But what's really behind that is I don't have a sense of worth. I'm not clear about my value and what I bring to the party. Clarifying what is trivial and what is truly vital in life, right? Again, what's real, what's necessary, or what's the three things? Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So those three gates you're running through to see if it really has value for you. Reducing self-critical, hostile cognitions. Like I said, that voice, those voices back there that come, especially if you've been through some trauma and some adversity and stuff, those voices are back there. The issue is how can I heal through them, learn the lessons, and release them. And then fostering love, compassion, forgiveness. That's the core. That's the core of spirituality. Okay. So what do clinicians need to actually address spirituality? To be non-judgmental, accepting, and empathetic. Non-judgmental. How does that start? So somebody may not see things the way I see them. They may not see spirituality the same. They may not be the same religion, But when I can look at people with an open mind and accept them for what they bring to the party, then it's easier to connect with them on the real side. Because all of us are trying to do the same things. We're just trying to do it different ways. We're all trying to be okay. What's that? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the physiological needs and safety, love and belonging, actualization. We all are trying to take care of it. Some of us are doing it in unhealthy ways. So when we look at people without being judgmental, it makes it easier for us to connect with them. Just from teaching for so many years, I'm just clear. We tend to work best with people that we like. Because we see something in that person that we recognize. So the task is, no matter who the person is or why you're seeing them, because I've had to work with pedophiles, certain people who are in jail, whatever. But the issue is to be able to look at that person and see something in them that you can relate to see some humanity in them. Because if they're doing something unhealthy, then they're trapped in their own stuff. So when we can do that, then it makes it easier for us to connect with, or as we say, join with that person. So yeah, she checked me out about my religion, but when I let her know that I was accepting of her and had some of the same experience, things chilled and we could just go ahead and start talking about some of her issues. Openness, willingness, time to understand the client's spirituality. When I first started in the field, I remember being in graduate school and they were telling us not to deal with issues of spirituality. In this Western way of looking, not to deal with issues of spirituality because people are sensitive to it and people do it so many different ways, not to do it that way. But again, I say you dealing with people of color, my experience, if you're not willing to deal with those issues, you're going to stay on the surface. Because again, spirituality is a major motivational item for people of color. Comfort in asking. I like change talk, just to get people to elaborate on whatever they're expressing. Some people think that being a counselor, doing therapist is about giving advice. It's not. It's about helping people to go deeper and get in touch with what they think, look at their things, look at their narratives from different angles and make some decisions. So we have to be able to ask questions to help them to examine stuff. So how do you get to that? Say, you think there's another way to deal with it? So what took you there? Just helping people to unpack. And of course, the willingness to continue to learn. So doing this for 50 years, you know who my main client is, right? Me. Everybody else is just a stand-in for me learning about growing, working on me. Okay. And the characteristics of effective intervention. We're going to get to those models in just a minute. First, the ability to suspend judgment, like I said, no non-judgment. Vulnerability, that is one crucial one. So often, when we go through stuff, traumas, or just growing up, whatever, we learn to put up walls to defend ourselves. Walls to keep people from seeing that we feel frail or unknowledgeable in some ways, or just, to protect us from our vulnerability. But that is where our integrity is. That's where our real being lies, where we can be open and free about who we are, how we see things, and just be really present with somebody. And every one of us knows the difference in being with somebody who is open and somebody who's not. You can feel the energy. You can feel the energy. You walk into the room and somebody's talking about you. You can feel the energy. And you can feel whether they say something good or whether they're not. The ability to understand from another's point of view. That sounds like a small thing. That's, to me, that's empathy. But what that requires is you have to be secure in who you are enough to come out of your world and go into somebody else's world to understand it from their point of view. That doesn't mean you sanction it. Again, I said, you know, I'm working with guys who have been abusing kids, you know, and what I had to get to, go into their world to understand that although some of them were 30, 40, and 50 years old, that these were guys who were stuck at younger ages in themselves from different traumas that they had and had learned to act it out in these crazy kind of ways. So I had to go into their world to see it from their perspective so we could collectively work on doing some healing like that. But if I'm sitting back just judging them, I'm going to have a wall up and I'm not going to be able to really touch them. Sense of humor. Well, my lady wife used to warn me about your sense of humor. You know, you got to be careful with your sense of humor. But when you get to the point when you can laugh together with the people you're working with, that's when you really know that you're connected. That's when you really know that you're getting each other. Self-awareness, biases. All of us have biases, or you can call them preferences. If you know what they are, then that awareness gives you options. If you don't, you're going to think it's the other person all the time. So what's that thing from Harvard? Say it again?
Implicit association test.
Yes, the implicit bias test. I would recommend anybody who's going to do anything in this field to take some of those tests for free, and it gives you some feedback about how it perceives your biases. And then you can decide what you're going to do about it. But again, we all have biases, and if you know about what your biases are, you're going to be in a better situation than if you don't know what they are. The ability to seek help. Yeah. It used to be a requirement to be a therapist. You had to do therapy. Whether it's a requirement or not, it's still advisable. And emotional competence. Again, learning how to make friends with one's emotion becomes critically important. Into psychotherapy. So, well, I guess we need to start with the enriched structural family therapy. Because I was actually working with the Baltimore Family Life Center in Baltimore under the mentorship of Ross Ford when we developed this enriched structural family therapy. And many of you know about structural family therapy, Salvador Minuchin. It's a family therapy model. He's a psychiatrist who was out of Argentina, I believe, but he worked here in the U.S. And actually, he developed structural family therapy by watching some social workers work with black families and youngsters who were incarcerated up in Philadelphia. So my mentor, Ross Ford, he had an older brother named Jerome Ford. And if you look at some of Minuchin's books, he'll say some of them, Families of the Slums, are actually dedicated to Jerome Ford. Because this was a top-down model. They learned that they developed structural family therapy by watching those social workers and counselors who were in the community work with those families and started recording what they saw as working and codifying that into a model. That's different than intellectually deciding what you're going to do and then laying it on people. They actually witnessed what people were doing that was working. And that's how they developed structural family therapy. What we did, we took it to to another step. We added some other components to it. Because most of us who were involved in Baltimore Family Life were practicing some Ayurvedic sciences, and we added some pieces to it. And besides the structural model, we added a parenting model and what we call kinship love. Kinship love is that relational piece, again, that relational piece that understands that we are all related. When we feel connected, we do better in our relationships with other people and with ourselves. So we developed those models. We were doing, like I said, child welfare and juvenile justice. We had hired foster kids from all kids who had shipped all out of states, and we would bring them back and work with them. And out of that enriched structural family therapy, there must have came about 25 different programs over a 15, 20-year period that developed out of what we were doing in Baltimore Family Life. At the same time, we were doing that. We got a call one day from a group in D.C., the Progressive Life Center, that said that they wanted some training done for their staff in family therapy. So we came over to D.C., I came over to D.C., did some training for them, maybe 3 or 4 trainings that summer. And then at the end of that time, it was over. And around Thanksgiving, I got a call, and they asked me to apply to be the clinical director. I said, okay. At the time I started, they had 11 clinicians, all of them master's level and doctorate level. And they had 11 clinicians in one office in D.C. By the time I left, 27 years later, it was D.C., 2 offices and 3 offices in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Ghana, and what's the other place? Another country in Africa. Well, over 250, 300 clinicians, and all of them had to be certified in N2. So when you came on staff, we went on retreat with us, and we actually presented the model, and you had to do some your own personal therapeutic work, and then you were certified in N2. And these were the principles that were important in N2. The first one was harmony. Harmony, body, mind, and spirit. We're not just looking at your thoughts. We're understanding that your wealth, your health manifests in your body, it manifests in your emotions, in your spiritual practice, the whole thing. So we're looking at body, mind, and spirit. Second is balance. Everything in our lives requires balance. You want to balance your work and your home life. You want to balance your checkbook. You want to keep some balanced things going in and coming out. Then there's interconnectedness. Interconnectedness is simply understanding the oneness. Everything relates to everything else. Everything is connected. And then authenticity. Authenticity. I used to tell my students all the time, say, when you don't know what to do, just be real. Be kind, authentic, but be real. And so on the risk side, we had 5 principles. Now, the first one was about a purification process that we did, and we still do, sunrise and sunset meditation. It helps to calm the mind by reducing the pollution, like that. So that's part of the lifestyle that was central to what we were doing in Baltimore Family Life. The other 4 principles, the first one is Donna. Dharma means sharing of assets in the spirit of humility. What the assumption is, nothing belongs to any of us. We are all caretakers. We didn't bring it with us into the flight, and it's not going to leave with you. We're all caretakers. Now think about this for a minute. If everybody on this planet adopted that one principle, we would not have 40,000 people dying every day of starvation on this planet. There's more than enough resources to take care of people, but in a capitalistic system, it's about you make money off of who doesn't have stuff, not who does. So Dharma is about sharing, and it's not about just sharing your material wealth. We all have an obligation to share whatever we have. Knowledge, comfort, good wishes. We have an obligation to share. It makes us healthier. It makes the environment healthier. Then there's Tapa. Tapa is about self-discipline. Any achievement in life requires some self-discipline. If it's the one studying for a test, going to bed a certain time so you can get up, or eating a certain way. Any achievement in life, you have to be intentional about some self-discipline. Some self-discipline. And I'll say that one of the mandates that seems to be in current life is for us to be intentional, not being defaulting to fight, flight, or freeze, and just whatever stimulation is, and just going after that. But say, when we ask ourselves, what's really best for me, what's healthy, what helps me to reach my aspiration goals, when we come out of the amygdala, we move to our prefrontal cortex, where the real thinking takes place. Where the real thinking takes place. Then there's karma. Karma is right thought, right speech, right action. Some people think of karma as punishment, but karma is just an understanding that everything in life is connected. Whatever you put out, you're going to get back. Not as punishment, but as a teaching tool. You put out an energy, that energy is going to come back to you in some form. And the last one is Swadhyaya. The Swadhyaya relates to that thing of purpose, again, self-study. Who am I? What's real? What's my purpose? Those kind of questions. So these are principles that we not only use in working with the clients, but with the staff themselves. One of the things that became so clear to me, you cannot expect any mental health worker, any counselor, anybody to take care of their clients if you're not taking care of them. And there's so many systems now, the way things that I've been having the opportunity to train all over the place. So many systems, people are really not being taken care of because the systems are so linear, they're so about outcomes, and they really don't take the energy to take care of the staff. So what happens? The staff come and they stay 6 months and they keep going someplace else, from place to place to place. But they don't necessarily grow themselves. So some of the assumptions about it too. One is, first assumption, all people are innately good. That doesn't mean that we act good, but it differentiates between the person and the behavior. Again, if I'm working for pedophile, I'm not accepting that behavior, but I'm accepting that there's a person trapped in that behavior. And my job is to work with that person to help them to be consistent with who they are at their deepest source, not just acting out their traumas. All people have good intentions. What does that mean? We all trying to be okay. We all want to be happy. We all want to have some resources. We all want to have good relationships. We may not think it's possible. We may be helpless and hopeless when we think about those things, and we may act that out. But deep down, everybody has good intentions. Healing is a natural process. What that says is if we just become interact with somebody in a harmonious and healthy way, something good is going to come out of that. Something good is going to come out there. If you bring in good vibes to the interaction, if you are interacting in a healthy way, and you see some value in this person, then something good is going to come out of that. The helper is a facilitator or conduit of the healing process. So we don't make it happen, but it comes through us when we are in a line, when we are harmonious, when we are present, it comes through us. All people want to be happy. I've met a lot of people who didn't think they could be happy. I've never met anybody who didn't want to be happy. Behavior is how human potential is actualized. Healing, skill development, and the creation of vision are part of the therapeutic process. What does that mean? So when you deal with people, a lot of times, one of the first things that has to happen, I still deal with a lot of folks with substance abuse issues. And one of the first things that has to happen is some healing. Because so often that is a product of trauma. Trauma can be what happened to you and what did not happen for you. One of the epidemics I see in our society is so many people growing up without nurturance. You know nurturance? Somebody saying, I love you, you're good at that, yes to you. Somebody validating you, like that. So yes, it's about healing, and then the next step is skill development. Skill development. Skill development can be about teaching communication skills. It can be about teaching people how to relax. It can be about teaching people how to move on in goals. Like that can be, but it's developing some skills. But when people aren't healed, it's very difficult to move forward with intention if there's not some healing happening. And the third one in that is the creation of vision. Creation. I see so often, it hurts me to see so many young people live without vision. You know what I mean? When they say, you hear them say, well, I don't expect to live to be 18 or 25 or 8 or 30 or whatever. You know, that's living without vision. Living without vision. Because whatever you focus on, consciously or unconsciously, you help to happen. If you have a vision of success, if you have a vision of being able to travel and talk to people and have a good job and being productive in your community, then that's more likely to happen. But if you don't consciously have that, it's very easy to have that other vision in your unconscious mind. You'll get ripped off because that happens so often and stay on the news so much and so much of the social media or whatever that you begin to envision that unconsciously and call that kind of situation. And then the last one, union with the universal or primal force is the ultimate goal of humankind. And ESFT are similar. All people are divine in origin. We're all from the same source. We're all from the same source. So at our core, we are all divine. Whether you believe in God or not, some of the most, how should I say? I've met people who were atheists, who had very high morals, standards and service and stuff, and to me were very spiritual. In their mind, they didn't believe in God. That's between them and the universe. But what they produced by their values was, to me, a very high spiritual product. All behavior is rooted in positive intention. Boom, that's similar to what we talked about. All behavior, as essence, is about giving and receiving love. Again, that comes from my late wife. All behavior is about giving and receiving love. The family is the primary focus of therapeutic intervention. Family. Now, sometimes you work with individuals, but the family's always there, whether they're physically there or not. I had one client in another state, and every time I mentioned the father, she said, I don't have no father. I don't have no father. What was that telling me? That tells me her feelings about her father are very strong in her life. So even when you cut off from people, they're there, and doing some work can free you up so you can move to the next place. Whether you ever physically speak to them or not, they might have passed on to another density, but they're there. Once, to me, it's like mafia. You can get in the family, but you can't get out. All families want the best for its members. They may have different ideas about what's best, but all families, at its core, families want the best for their members. Each of us is healthiest when we are dealing with our own family issues. What's it? You can run, but you can't hide. And you know what happens? You maybe you don't even speak to your family. You live in another state. But the dynamics that form when you were with them, you carry them to wherever you go. Yes. And until you heal through them, you're going to reproduce a lot of the same dynamics. Would you say you can change horses, but you can't get out of the race? You can change mates, you can keep changing mates or whatever, but you end up in the same dynamics until you what? Until you change. Until you do something different. Because life is going to send you what you need to learn your lessons. Change is a natural and continuous process. Love is the healing force of the universe. Okay. Real quickly. So, this is what we call the awareness wheel. This is one way we can translate a behavior into understanding what that person is intentions are. So somebody give me some help. Give me some kind of behavior that you might see in working with people. Some kind of isolation. Okay. So the behavior is isolation. What might be that person's thoughts that go along with that isolation? Fear. Fear. We're gonna put fear down as the feeling. That's the emotion. And the thought might be avoidance. I'm avoiding trouble. I don't like people. I'd rather be by myself. Might be any and all of that. Okay. And just what might be the sensations that go with that isolation? The physical sensations.
Like nervousness.
Might be nervousness. What else?
Shaking, tapping. Yeah.
Shaking, tapping.
Rapid heartbeat.
Rapid heartbeat. Any and all of that. Okay. So what might be that person's intention? Say it again.
Safety.
Right. Okay. Safety. What else?
Community.
Huh?
A sense of community.
Sense of community? No, isolated.
Yes. Oh, the Lord.
Sense of protection.
Yeah. See, I like that intention. Safety. That person is trying to take care of themselves. They're feeling fear. Their thought is, I need to avoid certain things. They're nervous, whatever. So, two characteristics of intentions. Intentions are always positive, and they're always about what the person is trying to do for themselves, not to the other person. They might be doing something, but it's really about what they're trying to do for themselves. If I'm stealing your money, it's not about you. I'm trying to do something for me. Not that it's excusable, not that it's right. But if you understand what that person is really trying to do for themselves, that's going to make it easier for you to connect with them in a genuine way and look at some other ways to meet those needs. Does that make sense? Somebody got another one we want to try real quick? Another behavior?
Anxiety.
Well, anxiety would be the feeling. What would be the behavior that goes with that anxiety?
Sleeplessness.
Okay. So the person that has trouble sleeping. And what might be the thoughts to go with that?
Being worried about the future and not being able to control what's going to happen.
Worrying about the future. I don't think I'm going to be all right. I might be overwhelmed. This ain't going to work out. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, what might be that person's intention? What might be that person's intention? Say again? Yeah. Yeah. They just think, if I look at all the worst case scenarios, maybe I can avoid them. They're trying to do that. But one of the things they're doing, they're actually making themselves less stable by that. And that's something you can examine. Because if you look at those things closely, each one of those different cycles represents different modes of intervention. The sensation, the behavioral, and emotional, with the feelings, thoughts, cognitive, and like each one of them represents different ways of intervening. But the trick is you want to understand what the person is trying to do for themselves. Because our job is to assist them in doing it in a healthy way. So, this is one of the big issues. To me, one of the major issues when you talk about using these indigenous models is the issue of diagnosis. I mean, it's not, I've met people and I said, somebody went to me and said, I'm bipolar. I said, oh yeah, I'm Dr. Gregory bipolar. How are you? People start to see themselves as these diagnoses, And diagnosis is looking at what's wrong with you, but what I'm proposing to you is these indigenous models are about looking at what's right with you. Because again, everybody has a purpose, everybody brings something to the table. It's about helping a person discover what that is and actualize it. So much of this diagnosis is about putting people in boxes so they can fit into the gross national product. You know what happens. I mean, kids go to school, and some kids have to get up and move around, and some sleep and some back in the back room playing. They have different learning styles. And they used to say there were 7 basic intelligences, right? Most schools only deal with 2 of those basic 7 intelligences. And that's language and logic. Language and logic. So if your language is tactile, in other words, You got to move like so many kids have to this day. You can't sit down, shut up, and be still. What happens to you? You get a diagnosis, we give you some pills, and we set you in the corner, saying there's something wrong with you, because if you can't sit down, shut up, be still, and let me talk to you all day, then something's wrong with you, and you have a disease, and we're going to give you these pills until you get it right.
Dr. Gregory, an anonymous student has a question.
Yes, sir.
About good intentions. The question was, does that also include psychopaths?
Tell me what's a psychopath?
I think they're going to have to become anonymous. That's all I have.
Well, let's say this. So, let's say a psychopath is somebody who is only concerned about their own welfare and doing things that are socially unacceptable, trying to have some, I'm giving it away, some power. Is that close?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But probably no feelings and remorse and all that type of thing too. I would imagine that.
Okay. Good. So what might that person be feeling? The psychopath.
They still looking for self-preservation, protection of themselves and doing what they want. It's still about them.
You said they're looking for self-preservation. They're looking to take care of themselves, looking to have some power. And they may think that the only way they can do that is not be compassionate or caring or connected to anybody. You know, but they're trying to have some power. They're trying, you know, when you hear about these, when you hear about so many these young people get guns and go into these places and shoot up the place, what are they saying about themselves? They're saying, see me. Nobody hears me, doesn't listen to me, nobody thinks I'm important, so I'm going to do something to get some attention, even if it's the last thing I do. So they're trying to do something to empower themselves, even if it's on the downside, on the outside. So with a psychopath, you know, he or she is trying to have some, they feel inadequate. They feel impotent. They feel inadequate in so many ways. So they're doing something to overcompensate for that. Think about bullies. Bullies. Somebody who is taking advantage of somebody else to demonstrate to them that I have some power, I have some worth. I feel so bad about myself that I gotta hurt somebody else to demonstrate that I'm okay. They're really just trying to be okay. This makes sense? You know, they're expressing a need. We all have the same basic needs, and some of us express it in some very dramatic and crazy ways that aren't healthy for us and aren't healthy for the community. Yes, sir.
So is there any attention to themselves?
Yes. Yes. Two characteristics of intentions. They're positive, and then what the person is attempting to do for themselves. So I may be doing something very unhealthy for you, but I'm trying to do something positive for me. So I'm not excusing it. I'm not saying I think we have to separate the person from the behavior. It doesn't mean they aren't accountable. That doesn't mean their behavior is acceptable. But there's a person in there who is trapped in there. And we can figure out what that person's intentions are. We're going to be better able to connect with them. Do you know what I found so often with the pedophiles? They had an itch they couldn't scratch. And they found some perverted ways to try to scratch that. for a lot of, for what they were lacking a lot of times as they came up with something. Some of them were abused and neglected and whatever. Then they tried to get that back to satisfy an itch they can't scratch in a thoroughly unacceptable way. So when the therapy went well, it was about helping them to own their craziness and at the same time to heal through some of the narrative that set them up for that and find some other ways to empower themselves, to express themselves, to validate themselves, to scratch themselves. Yes, ma'am.
What is the healing process? Like, how does that show up or look like in therapy? When someone is healing through something?
It's 9 times it's just about helping them pull it out the closet and talk about it. You know, we all have been through something like this. That word somebody used earlier, the main coping skill in this society is avoidance. Drugs, alcohol, shopping, food, sex, all this stuff we use to avoid our feelings. So when we start helping a person, it's as simple as saying, oh, that hurt you. It sounded like that was scary for you. You know, wow, that seemed like it was overwhelming for you. Just helping them to get in touch with those feelings, and the more they can talk about it. Sometimes we'll help people to talk through it, talk to their younger selves, and thank them for what they're doing, but you know, have them chill out. Sometimes have them write letters or do empty chair to talk to somebody who's hurt them or that they're upset with, as if they were there. You know, with some coaching like that. You know, but to talk with the person, tell the person how you really felt about what's going on, or write letters to them. And I told the client yesterday, I said, look, you write the letter, you know, you can decide later whether you want to send it where you need to send it or not. But again, that energy, you're putting it, you're getting it out from inside. Because what happens if you have feelings inside and you don't express them? They're trapped for a while, but you keep putting them stuff in your backpack, and eventually it bursts. Next thing you know, you break it out in handcuffs or done something really crazy, you know, not because of what happened in the moment, because of all the feelings that you've been suppressing for all that time. So just getting a person to accept their feelings, to say, oh, that was scary, or, you know, I really felt neglected, you know, or I just, sometimes I don't feel worthy. Just getting them to own that is unpacking some of the stuff that burden people and keeps us suppressed and not able to be ourselves. So it's a process, but I start with the emotional competence, owning the feelings, and then doing something with them. Writing, talking, even writing songs, you know, journaling, some kind of way to get it out. Like that. Exercise. I found myself doing the other day. I did some work at a recovery place where I see a lot of recovery clients. Just had them sitting there doing some chair yoga, you know. People can barely get up the steps, but so heavy, and everybody got back problems and whatever. So we some breathing and some chair yoga, you know, to release. Dancing. Do you know dancing is one of the things that it's on the scale of things that make people happiest in the world, it's number 2. Because you know you need to dance like nobody's looking. First you're doing step, and then you're just flowing with the music, you know, flowing with it like that. That's healing. You're releasing like that. And all of us need a program, a regular daily program to help us center, to ground, to release. And you know one of the other things that helps in that program too is gratitude. Gratitude is the attitude that maximizes brain potential. Say when we're in a state of gratitude, more the brain lights up than any other time. So you can look at what's wrong, like I say, you know, I didn't do this, I messed up here, whatever. But you can look at what's right. Hey, I'm still living indoors. You know, I have one friend. I got $10 in my pocket. It may not be everything you want, but when we can be grateful for what we have, we invite more of what we need. So again, it's changing. We're not helpless. It's about changing our mindsets, you know, and focusing in a way that maximizes our potential, draws the things that we need closer to us, like that. And again, what I wanted to say about that diagnosing piece, each one of us is an individual. There's a brother, Malajo and Sone, it's from Bikini Fossil. And what he was saying in one of his books, of Water and Spirit, I believe it was, that a lot of the things that we look at in this Western culture as being problematic, in indigenous cultures, they have utility. I mean, he said, for instance, if somebody is hearing voices or seeing things that somebody else is not seeing, here we, you know, give them a diagnosis, set them in the corner and give them some pills. But in indigenous cultures around the world, what happens, that person may become a seer, you know, or some kind of way, a link to another dimension. I had a client tell me the other day about us being able to see things that other people couldn't see. And so she, for instance, she sent me a picture of a tile, and she said there's a face in it, but most people can't see it. She sent it to me, and I could see it too. I said, okay. So, first of all, diagnoses are only problematic when there's a dysfunction that's related to it. You know? We all have different abilities. We all see things differently, experience things differently. So because somebody hears something, I can't tell you that it's not that somebody's not sitting in that chair because I can't see it. Just mean I can't see it. Doesn't mean that you don't see somebody sitting there. You know? So it's like, again, going into that person's world and helping them to deal with it in a way that's functional for them, rather than telling them they have a disease, disorder, and something is foundationally wrong with them. You're just saying that you have a unique way of seeing things. And what does that mean for you? What do you want to do with? Look at options like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, like I said, this Western psychology, it's only a couple hundred years old.
Mm-hmm.
But indigenous ways of doing things, humans have been on this planet for 200,000 years. And there's always been healers in every community. They didn't necessarily have license and certifications because it wasn't that kind of party. But people knew that the grandmother down the street, or the shaman over there, or the medicine man over here, you know, could help them to deal with stuff. That's always been a part. And that's what we're talking about when we're saying indigenous. We want to look at things community about collective responsibility for the group. We're looking at the spirituality. We're looking at potential. We're looking at assets and not deficits. Now, you know, I tell people in trainings all the time. I also say render unto Caesar what's Caesar. So if you're working in an agency and you got to do a diagnosis in order to get paid, you know, write the diagnosis. But that's between you and the funding source. That may have nothing to do with the client. to see that person as a person who is expressing some needs, who has some intentions and some purpose, and try to align with that. Try to align with that to help them be more of themselves. Oh, values. And from the N2, we use the Nguza Sala, right? You remember the principles of Kwanzaa? Unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility. That was one of my favorite. You know, I'm working with families all the time, and there's the young adult who lives in the basement and doesn't have a job, whatever. Everybody has something they can contribute. So you don't have money, maybe you are the person who takes out the garbage and washes the dishes, or you do the shopping, wash the car, whatever. But everybody has some way they can contribute to the whole. Again, everybody doesn't have to do the same thing. Everybody don't have to go to college to be valued. Everybody doesn't have to make a bunch of money, but you have to do something to contribute. Cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, faith. What is faith? Faith is the understanding that things are going to be what they need to be, and that you can handle stuff. It may not be what you want it to be all the time, but it's going to be what it needs to be. But it requires, again, that we support our faith with some kind of regular activities, because it's got so many things out here that take us to the opposite of faith. You know what the opposite of faith is? Fear. Fear. Anticipating things are going to go bad as opposed to anticipating things are going to be okay. So it's like, what do we focus on? If you're watching the news all day, and I don't mean whether it's the left wing or the right wing news, it doesn't make a difference. It's going to depress you. It's going to depress you. So you've got to find some other things to help you maintain a positive outlook. Maybe look at some of those little mindless comedies sometimes, or listen to some soothing music. Read something inspirational. Yeah? But if you're just looking at what's wrong, that's going to inspire fear. And that's what's going to get played on. Some people believe that's what happened in the last election, but I'm not talking about that. From the ESFT, the 7 rules of thumb that we use in working with people. I will not find fault. It's not my job to look at what's wrong with you. I'm looking for what's right with you. Your potential, your assets. I'm looking for your value. Okay? I will live up to the power of my own discrimination. Again, when we're talking about discrimination, discernment, decision making, we're talking about using the logical mind. We're talking about using our emotions and our intuition to make the best decisions that we can. And none of us is perfect. Some days we're better than other days or whatever. That's part of the process. But the more we learn to listen to that still small voice within, the louder it gets, and the more present it is in our life. Do not look for the fruits of the action. That's what we call non-attachment. That thing you said, you will get your client to do this in this amount of time and that. I've had clients that I thought that I didn't do anything with because, they were, when I was younger and I'm seeing the client go to jail and whatever. And I know one client, I'm playing tennis and he comes across the court hollering at me, hey. So I said, man, yo, yes. He said, I just wanted to thank you for, I said, but you went to jail. He said, no, you don't understand. I was going to jail way before I met you. I probably got less time and learned more just from the 3 or 4 months that we was together. But outcome-wise, it looked like a failure. And I saw that happen over and over again. Our job is to do the best we can and not judge ourselves by those outcomes. Because there's so many other factors that are playing in outcomes. You can be the best parent in the world. Doesn't mean your child is going to turn out like you want them to turn out. Because you're not the only factor in their life. Single point. That's about focus. Whatever you focus on, you help that to bring that into being. If you focus on the fear, you're going to help to bring in the things that are fearful. If you focus on the faith, if you focus on the strengths, you're going to magnify the strengths. If you're going to focus on the deficits, you're going to magnify the deficits. So it's, and bottom line, to get confused. Think something good, say something good, do something good. Okay? To me, those last 3, that's a statement of faith. You put in positive energy is going to come out. It may not come out in the day you want it, may not come out in the way you recognize. I remember another little client I saw him for 3 months, and his grandmother brought him in, he wouldn't talk and whatever. And then another day I'm driving up the street, in another neighborhood, and somebody was running behind the car calling my name. And I didn't know the voice because I'd never heard it. And I stopped, and he wants to thank me because he learned so much from me, and now he's 18 and he's got a kid on the way, and he wants to pass some of those things on. I'm blind to all of this, but he got it like that. And that's our job, to pass on positive energy to help people to see possibility, potential to move forward. Okay. So that ESFT was talking about, a lot of that's from the Vedas. The Vedas are done in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a language that was heard by seers reportedly, and it's nobody's mother tongue. But the sound vibrations are healing like that. There's a lot of Vedas in in Sanskrit and other languages, but there's no other languages in Sanskrit. Not a religion, and it's based on what's called the science of bioenergy. Culture is where a group of people attempt to meet their needs. All cultures are functional to the needs of the people as they perceive them. They may change over time. That's it. All cultures have unique ways of knowing and perceiving the world that aid in their healing and growth. Life is speaking to all of us and all the time. Different cultures, it speaks different ways and different times like that, but there's value in all of it. This thing we have of, valuing the cultures that have the most things, I think that's a setup. I think that's a setup. There are places in the world where people have peace. We take care of each other. There are communities where we do that more and more. Matter of fact, as this thing unfolds, as this thing seems to fall apart, which it seems doing, more and more we're going to have to come together in communities. Because we won't be able to depend on getting your food from the market. Right now, they said so many things are unhealthy now. So we may have to grow your own, connect with a neighbor like that. Somebody knows how to do some carpentry, and somebody knows how to do some gardening, somebody knows how to fix small engines, that kind of bartering thing. This thing we have about these large corporations running everything in the world, that's not the only way to do things. And more people are raising in consciousness and beginning to do things in community in ways that are helpful. Wisdom is continuous and transcendent across generations, time, and space. The human spirit wants to evolve and achieve oneness and peace. Healing occurs within the context of loving, authentic relationships. Loving, authentic relationships. And that starts with one's relationship with oneself. Everybody, all the other relationships are just mirrors, projections of what we're doing with ourselves. When we say, I can't stand a liar and a thief, right? What are we saying? I can't stand a part of me that lies and steals, shades the truth. And healing is available to all of us, all existence. Okay, and these are some of the basic skills that I think are so important. The first one is joining. Relationship-oriented interactions. Joining becomes primarily important. That means connecting with somebody in a genuine way. You know, I know in most of the textbooks they talk about developing rapport. I'm talking about something a little more serious than that. Talking about really connecting with that person because you find a part of them that you like, respect, understand, that you can relate to. And you connect with that. Listening. Listening is the primary communication skill. Listening. And listening is a science and it's an art. Again, it requires putting out one's own stuff and being open to the other person's stuff. And there are different ways to listen. We talk about active listening, reflective listening, where you lend yourself to that person and help them to dive deeper by giving them feedback continually to what they give you. Somebody say, I don't want to be here. Say, oh, you don't want to be here. All you said, I hear you, I'm present, I'm listening. You hadn't said you're going to solve the problem or whatever, but it pushes the person to go a little bit deeper. No, I don't want to be here because someone, whatever, you know. So it's like learning to trust the process. Tell the process over an outcome. Reflective or active listening keeps us in the process. Affirming, reinforcement, supporting what works. Just saying, good job, I see you, I like your effort, you tried. Just those kind of things. The reason all of us are here, somebody at some level, at some time, said some of that to us. Gave us some kind of positive reinforcement, because in order for us to have confidence enough to come out of our shell, aspire to some things that require some work, that means we have to see some possibility. And when we get affirmations, that helps. Matter of fact, I would add that with gratitude. You know, he said, I am confident. I am real. I am loving. You know, to affirm for yourself the values that you hold supreme. Reframing. To me, reframing is what therapy is about. It's about taking a narrative and looking at it different. Instead of looking at the glass as being half empty, look at it as being half full. So, you know, somebody says, you know, I've been abused, I've been neglected. I said, well, you've been through a lot. You've been hurt. But you're still here. How did you make it and you're still here? What did you learn from that? If the person can, we can talk about that, that can shift the narrative from what didn't happen to what did happen. And that creates a whole different world. Empathy, showing understanding and compassion. Just letting the person know, I see you, I hear you, I get you. Doesn't say I approve of what happens, doesn't say, you know, I'm going to make it all better. It's just saying, I'm with you. Authenticity, being real. We say keeping it real. When I think of that, excuse me, I think of Tupac. But just keeping it real, and again, that requires at some level being vulnerable, being willing to share what's inside, even if it's not always organized, if it's not always clear, and whatever, but trusting what's in your heart and sharing it with the person you're working with. And opening questions, going deeper. So instead of asking questions of yes or no, so well, what did that mean to you? What do you think about that? What would you like to see happen? Just putting it in the other person's court, encouraging them to come up with some answers. So the characteristics of effective intervention: the ability to suspend personal judgment, vulnerability, to understand from another's point of view, self-awareness of biases, ability to seek help, emotional confidence. Ooh. Thank you for nobody snoring. Questions or comments? Anybody? What did you take out of this? What did you hear? Anybody?
Intention or often with the person trying to be sincere about the other person.
Yes. Yes. Happiness is in the now. Yes. Others. What's your takeaway?
I'll say I just appreciate the actual event because when you're being taught to be counselors, this isn't something that comes up, or like this perspective, this avenue. I feel like if you did have like a desire to learn about it, you had to like seek it. So I'm glad that it's now starting to be more present and people are talking about it more, because I think it's something that has been missing when it comes to counseling and like the healing journey, and like, you know, everyone's trying to evolve and grow. So I would just appreciate that.
Thank you for saying that. That reminds me, there have been Western psychologists who spent a lot of time in indigenous cultures to solidify some of the stuff, their contributions. Carl Jung, he spent a lot of time in Kenya. And other places in Africa, like that. Or Abraham Maslow, with the Native Americans. He spent almost 2 years with the Native Americans, you know, trying to understand things from their perspective. And there's a good book, it's written in the early 60s, by a guy named Thomas Sowers, a psychiatrist. It's called The Myth of Mental Illness. If you get a chance, you may check, because it really attacks that issue of diagnosis and looks at it from another angle. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any upcoming opportunities for certification into psychotherapy?
I don't know. I don't do into certification anymore.
Okay.
We do in certification in Indigenous, and we're doing some now in Rochester and Buffalo, and we're going to start another one down here probably the first part of the year, like that. But the Progressive Life Center, we used to do into certification, but that's where you have to do that at.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have just an observation when you were talking about showing the comparison or similar to the INTO and the ESFT.
Yes.
It seemed like the family systems, or that it looked at also how an individual, how you have to cultivate yourself in order to express the Indian style.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how I was.
It takes some work. You talk about single focus. You have to put something in to get something out. Yes. Those are principles, those are values that you decide to go after, and you know, you may recite them in your prayers, in your meditation, or whatever, just we do some reflection on it. But again, what you focus on is what you draw closest to you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm really impressed by don't look for the fruits of your actions.
Yeah, that's I think that's a high level one too. Again, that's an act of faith. Our job is to do the best we can and let the rest go. You have your goal, but if you don't get caught up in the anxiety about the future, or threat about the past. You do the best you can, consistent with that in the present, and let it go. But again, all of these take work. They take, because most of us, it's a little bit different than we're programmed in this society. Yes, ma'am.
You made a comment, you said that we should incorporate a daily program that allows us to do what you said, 3 things. The last one was release. What were the first 2 things?
Oh, you wanted me to remember something I said? Well, just think about it now.
I wrote that down. It's ground, center, and release.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, how do you balance the NQ mindset of the obligations to the community and the past and present with like boundaries and self-care, which might be seen as more individual?
Well, that's the balance issue. I mean, you have to take care of yourself first. You got to fill your cup to have something to share. So I mean, some of us, we get the people pleasing, we're running all of that. But as we mature, one of the things that I see, one of the topics and self-disciplines many of us have to work on is setting boundaries and limits, learning how to say no. I tease sometimes and say we all need at least 10 or 12 different ways to say no. I don't think so. I'm not sure that's going to work. Let me think about that and get back to you. My father, he's running with him. We were kids, and we running with him. 2 or 3 of us asking for something, and he said he tried to put us off. But if we kept asking, he said no. Just no.
What's the other end of that? Is there another end of continuously saying no all the time? Some of us are experts at saying no too, and then never yes. What do you say to that?
Experts who say no all the time?
Yeah, people that say no. In other words, what's the outcome of saying no all the time, and in other words, closing yourself off from community?
Well, that's what you're saying, closing yourself off. That's isolated. We all need each other. We need feedback from each other. So, when we put up all these walls and set up, I'm right, everybody else is wrong, it's just the way it is, like that. That's a setup. We need feedback, loving kindness from each other, empathy from each other to help us to regulate. We're mirrors. We're mirrors for each other. Okay. Is that close to what you asked?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I do have a question though. I know the question was asked about into, but if there's any written information, if there's any other ways that we can follow up as it relates to Indigenous psychotherapy, specifically?
Well, we have a website, Rafiki Consortium .org, Rafiki Consortium.org, and like I said, we will be doing trainings starting on the first of the year. We got a paper that's coming out. Dr. Winkler and a couple of us are working on finishing up now. That'll be published. But you can also just holler at me. Some cards, We're available to do trainings and consultations whenever we can fit it in.
Don't you have a book coming out soon?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a book coming out soon too. Yes. was just waiting, Paul Coates' his family is publishing that for the Black Classic Press, and so that'll be coming out soon. It's I don't know, a podcast. Some of this is on the podcast. The podcast is called Mind Training and Homeotherapy. Yes, Spotify, Simplecast, Facebook, like that. Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. So as a token of our appreciation, Dr. Gregory, we would like to give you some booty here. So we hope you enjoy it. Everyone, please give Dr. Gregory a loud round of
I want to make a quick announcement about PDAs, and for the professionals, we also have CEUs. And also to respond to Billy's question, so we do have connections at Progressive Life. We'll look into getting into certification, and we'll certainly be back in contact with Dr. Gregory about future trainings.
So if you have your PDA form, you can meet me down here to sign. If you do not have your PDA form, they will be emailed out to you all. So that's why you did your registration, so we'll email all that to you guys as well. Thank you and have a good evening, everyone.